Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of Voice Coffee Break. I'm your host James Poulter. Most people call me JP, feel free to do that as well. And I'm the CEO and co-founder of Vixen Labs, and in this episode we are going to be looking at the latest smart speaker research report that's just come out from our friends over at voicebot.ai. Big shout out to Brett Kinsella and the whole team there for putting together yet another amazing report looking at the whole state of the smart speaker market. In this episode we're going to look at what the overall market is doing. We're going to look a little bit at the breakdown of the different platform providers between Amazon and Google and see who's winning. And we're going to talk a little bit about what the implications are for you and your business as part of your overall digital marketing and innovation strategy if you are getting into the world of voice. So let's get into it on this episode of Voice Coffee Breaks with myself, JP. And as I mentioned, we are looking at the latest research report that has come out from voicebot.ai, and they have been putting together this fantastic research year over year, and we can see quite a big increase this year in the smart speaker market. Last year we were looking at somewhere around about the 1/3 mark, and now we are seeing that this has grown quite substantially. We're now looking at 90 million US adults having a smart speaker in their home. 90 million smart speaker users is a whole lot, and we're now up to over 32%. That's 32% growth since last year, which just shows a phenomenal amount of people getting on board with the smart speaker market in the past 12 months, as you can see. And I think one of the big things that we have learned from this past year is that the big sale periods around Black Friday and Christmas really do have a massive bearing on how many people are going to be getting into having a smart speaker, and how many of them are wanting a smart speaker at this time, particularly because they're just seeing that they are such an easy thing for people to be using, and that has been a big benefit for people setting up with getting a speaker. Let's see how this breaks down over the past couple of years, and so you can see here from this latest research that we have got quite a substantial base moving into this market. Over 32% year-on-year growth is obviously pretty hot right now. In January 2019, only 66.4 million up to 87.7 million adults now having an access, which is, year over year, that's now 70% growth between 2018 and now, which is just absolutely huge. And that smart speaker base now accounts for 1/3 of all US adult households, which I think is something that we just cannot discount how substantial this is. And thinking about what that means for homes, it means that this is no longer a niche thing. If you are thinking about targeting people, particularly at this time during the coronavirus crisis, while people are on lockdown, even as those measures begin to restrict themselves, in reality, all of us with social distancing are going to be spending more time at home over the coming months. And so when you begin to see these kind of numbers, this kind of level of smart speaker base installed, is pretty substantial. And what's also we're seeing here, you can see this this quote here from the research that that US car voice assistants has got a rise of 13%, now at 130 million, and that's just because so many people buying new cars have got these devices built into the head unit. So whether it's in the car or in the home, smart speakers and smart cars are definitely on the rise, and that is one of the big things that we have been so focused on here at Vixen, and I'm sure that many of you are thinking about. If you're thinking about where are my digital marketing channels right now when people are under lockdown, the smart speaker suddenly opens up this just massive opportunity to do something slightly different. And you can see this in this report. So I'm going to be really intrigued to see if this number begins to affect people's decision making around what they're going to be spending their money on when it comes to smart speaker and voice assistant usage, and where it fits into their overall digital marketing mix. Because with so many other channels like out of home right now not being available to us, with all the sports sponsorship stuff that has disappeared, there is a lot of gap in the market, a lot of ad dollars that have been disrupted because of this. We've seen a couple of the big ad networks and some of the big ad agencies this past week announcing that they might have to make redundancies as a result of that big shift in media spend. Obviously right now there isn't a media spend option on either of the voice assistant platforms, on Google Assistant or on Alexa, but it does raise the question whether or not that might be a new channel that Amazon and Google open up in lieu of so many of their other platforms disappearing. So we're going to see where that goes. Now, the other thing that's come out of this report, which I think is really interesting from VoiceBot, is not only the amount of devices overall that have been sold, obviously that is pretty substantial and quite important, but the breakdown is also important between the different platforms. And what this other main stat coming out of VoiceBot shows is that the overall smart speaker market share by brand in 2020 is very different to what we have seen it be in the past. Amazon used to just completely dominate this scene, and obviously they're still a very significant part of this. But 53% now of the market going to Amazon. Google, a big shift there, nearly 7 percentage points up in their market share on smart speakers over the past year. And there's a couple of risers there as well. Also, Sonos doing quite well out of that, obviously being able to also offer a blended solution for people because they offer on their smart speaker platform both Alexa and Google Assistant. So you've got a choice of different device assistants on that platform. So that's going to be quite interesting. So I think these stats that I'm seeing here, I think are quite compelling for us to be really thinking about this being much more of a two-horse race. This isn't just about Alexa anymore. Google are really fronting up, and I think we've seen that in the industry this year with them enhancing their Google Assistant partnership programs for agencies like us, but also showing up at major events such as Bradley Metrock's event earlier in the year, doing the Voice Talk series with our friends and colleagues over at Modev this year. So a big shift for Google, and I think that this is going to have a major ramification for what we see in the market overall. And I think when you look at these numbers, which is kind of quite compelling here, it is that we are seeing a more diverse marketplace overall, and that's really good. That diversity, that competition between these different platform providers is a really good thing for the voice industry. I think many of us working in this space for a while have hoped that it would become more competitive, and that as Google begins to enter into the market, have more dominance, and people get used to that overall ecosystem, we're going to see them being able to use their voice assistant on their mobile device much more often. Google Assistant's going to become more commonplace in their overall daily usage, and it's also going to expand out to be used more in other devices like the car, as I mentioned, and also things like the Google Pixel Buds, which have just dropped. Galaxy Buds have just dropped, so both of those supporting the Assistant as well. So I think we're going to begin to see this really trend out. So what does this mean for you and your business? What does it mean for your overall planning when it comes to digital marketing, when it comes to your innovation work streams, when you're thinking about different touch points? It means that, first off, this is still a growing segment, and particularly growing, usage growing, while people are on lockdown. From our friends over at VoiceFlow, Brendan tweeted a tweet earlier this week, their CEO, showing that they've had nearly 100% increase in engagement with Alexa skills that are built on VoiceFlow since the lockdown began, as more people are spending more time at home. And we've also seen during that same time period our own skills that we're building at Vixen get a major increase in their base, whatever platform they've been built on, both Alexa and on Google Assistant. So we're seeing more people spend more time with their devices while they're at home, which is a big benefit. I've got to stop touching my face, which is a big benefit. But also, as these numbers kind of bear themselves out, this market share is now pretty diverse. And so the other big thing for you, if you're thinking about what do I do with voice in my business in 2020, is that skills and actions obviously really important. But with this rise in the Google market share here, we're also going to see that the importance of getting your content sorted out for search and being able to be found on the Google Assistant, making sure that that knowledge box that comes up at the top of so many of our results is optimized for voice, making sure that we're the dominant provider of the content for the questions that really matter to your business, to your consumers, to your employees. So be thinking about that. This market is growing, and it's certainly something that is important for us to think about the overall mix. Second up is that it's really important to be playing to this overall trend in the diversification between these different markets and seeing who's leading in this space. And third is get your content house in order. Don't ignore the fact that there is this many people out here using these devices in such different and compelling ways. So don't ignore this 30% of Google users. They're going to be really important to your business overall in the coming months. So that's all I wanted to share this week on the Voice Coffee Break. Thanks so much for joining us. If you like this video, I would love it if you, wherever you're viewing this, whether it's on LinkedIn, Instagram or YouTube, that you would go and subscribe to us. You can go find more from the Vixen Labs team and the Voice Masters team over at social web. So go follow us at Vixen Labs or Vixen_Labs over on Instagram and on Twitter. And yeah, if you like this video, please like it, subscribe to the channel and share it wherever you've found it, or maybe share it with your colleagues in email, and subscribe to get more updates like this. And we'll be doing new Voice Coffee Break videos at least once a week over the next few weeks while we're still in lockdown. So I look forward to being in contact with you all again soon. So for now, thanks so much for joining us on an episode of the Voice Coffee Break with me, JP from Vixen Labs, and we look forward to seeing you all again very soon.